Welcome to The Explainer. Sometimes a song title tells you everything you need to know, and sometimes it does the exact opposite. Today, we're diving into one of Bob Dylan's most provocative songs, Neighborhood Bully, to figure out the massive puzzle right at its heart.
All right, so let's get right into it. The song just throws this huge contradiction at you right away. The title calls the main character a bully, right? But then the lyrics say he's outnumbered about 1,000,000 to 1. So what's going on here? Why would you call someone who seems like a total victim an aggressor?
So, to unpack all this, we're going to look at 5 things. We'll start with the paradox, then dig into how the song paints a portrait of a victim. After that, we'll see how the world judges him, explore the song's clever use of irony, and wrap up by asking the big one: who actually gets to decide who the bully is? Okay, section 1, the bully paradox. Let's really look at how Dylan sets up this whole conflict from the get-go. You gotta pay attention to the exact words here. The song doesn't say he is on their land. It says his enemies say he's on their land. That's a huge difference. It's so important. Right from the first 2 lines, this isn't about a fact, it's about an accusation. All right, section 2, portrait of a victim. So after setting the stage, the song starts, step by step, building this image of a persecuted figure, not an attacker. And this whole theme, a powerful person or group claiming to be the victim to justify what they do, it's something we see a lot in modern politics. It's why you'll see some pretty clear parallels to figures like Donald Trump, who have really mastered that kind of rhetoric.
So the song gives this character a backstory that's just steeped in suffering. He's this eternal exile, always wandering, always scattered, and he's judged not for anything he's done, but just for being who he is. That line, always on trial for just being born, wow, that's an incredibly powerful way to frame it. It creates this whole narrative where if the world is against you just for existing, then pretty much any action you take in your own defense feels justified, right?
And this line, it just hammers home that feeling of being completely trapped. If you feel like you're cornered with no place to run, it's a really potent way to justify lashing out. It's fascinating because we see this exact logic used by really powerful people who adopt the language of being under attack, making it seem like their aggressive moves are just, their only option. And the imagery here is just brutal. A noose at his neck and a gun at his back. This isn't some vague, far-off threat. It's right here, right now. It's imminent. And the argument the song is making is that when you're facing that kind of violence, your own response, no matter how strong, isn't aggression anymore. It's self-defense. So it all comes down to this. The criticism he's facing isn't really about what he does. The song is saying he's criticized and condemned for being alive. And that changes everything. It's not just a disagreement anymore. It's a fight for his very survival. Okay. So, we've seen how the song builds this picture of a victim. Now, it does something really interesting. It flips the camera around and puts the critics under the microscope. Section 3, the world's judgment. So, when this supposed bully actually does something to defend himself, the song sets up this clear cause and effect. He takes a defensive action, and then we see what the song calls a totally hypocritical reaction. And this is where that paradox gets even trickier. At what point does an act of self-defense start to look like an act of aggression to everybody else? This verse is the perfect example. He takes out a bomb factory, right? That's a pretty clear and present danger. But what happens? Nobody's happy. In fact, he was supposed to feel bad. This song is basically screaming that if you're the one being persecuted, even the most common sense act of survival is going to be twisted and called an act of aggression. And here, wow, the cynicism is just dripping from the lyrics. You've got this contrast between what people say and what they do. On one hand, they're praying for the bloodshed to cease, but on the other, they're just laying in wait for this bully to fall asleep. It paints this picture of their call for peace as a complete sham. It's just a tactic, a way to bide their time until they can strike. So as the lyrics go on, the list of antagonists just keeps growing. It's not just one group of enemies. It's everyone. It's old women. It's hypocritical pacifists. It's the ghosts of fallen empires like Egypt and Rome, even abstract ideas like pride and prejudice. The message is clear. The entire world is lined up against this guy. Okay, so we've got all this evidence piling up that paints the main character as a victim. So how in the world do we make sense of that title, Neighborhood Bully? Well, the key is the song's most powerful tool, irony. So irony, right? It's when you say the opposite of what you really mean. Dylan isn't actually calling this person a bully. He's using the title sarcastically. He's taking the insult that the character's enemies use, and he's putting it on display to show how ridiculous it is. And this is the big aha moment of the whole song. The title, Neighborhood Bully, isn't a description of the character, it is the accusation. The entire song is one long, detailed argument against its own title. Dylan is basically wearing the label to show you why it doesn't fit. And look, he does it again right here. What's anybody indebted to him for? Nothing, they say. See that? They say. He's quoting the opposition. He's laying out their narrative that he's just some crazy guy who likes to cause war. And this is a classic political move, right? Paint your opponent as dangerous and chaotic, and suddenly any strong action you take against them seems reasonable. It's a really clever strategy when you think about it. By embracing the bully label himself, Dylan shows just how absurd it is next to all the evidence of persecution in the lyrics. It's a powerful comment on how words can be used as weapons. And we see this play out in politics all the time, when a figure like Trump takes an insult thrown at him and just owns it, trying to rob it of its power.
So all of this leads us to our final section, and the big, lasting question that hangs over this entire song. What's the real takeaway here? What is Dylan ultimately trying to say?
Because it's not just about survival. The song lists all these incredible achievements. This bully apparently made a garden of paradise in the desert sand. He turned crumbs into wealth, sickness into health. He's not just enduring, he's creating. He's thriving. And he's even outlasted the giant empires that tried to crush him.
And that brings us to the absolute core argument of the song, and why it feels so relevant today. The idea is that when you're in a hostile world, any act of survival can be twisted to look like an act of aggression. This is exactly the kind of rhetoric a figure like Trump uses. He constantly presents himself as the victim of a witch hunt, which allows him to frame his own political attacks as just defending himself. The song is showing us that perspective. Well, it's everything. So in the end, the song doesn't give us an easy answer. It leaves us with this really sharp, difficult question. When one person's survival is seen by someone else as a provocation, who holds the power to decide who the bully really is? It's a question that applies way beyond this one song. You see it in geopolitics, you see it in presidential speeches, and it forces us to look closer and always ask, who is telling this story, and what do they have to gain from it?